It all started with a knock on my door, loud, impatient, and way too early on a Saturday morning. Standing there was Karen, the self-proclaimed enforcer of our HOA rules, holding a clipboard like it was a badge of honor. Without so much as a good morning, she launched into a speech about how my brand new solar panels were out of compliance with the neighborhood guidelines. I had just finished installing them a few days earlier, something I'd been planning for months, not just to cut down on energy bills, but to do something good for the planet. And legally, everything was up to code. I did my research, got the permits, and even ran it past the city. But apparently, none of that mattered to her. Karen wasn't just upset, she was on a mission. Suddenly, I was getting daily notices from the HOA, demanding I remove the panels or face fines. Every day it felt like she was watching my house, looking for the next thing to complain about. One day it was the panels, the next it was my driveway. I tried talking to her, explaining how important the solar panels were to me and how everything was approved, but it didn't matter. She wasn't interested in listening. She wanted control. What she didn't expect was that I wasn't going to back down. I knew my rights. I knew the law, and I had a plan. But just when I thought I had the upper hand, Karen pulled something I didn't see coming. Something that could put everything, my panels, my home, and even my standing in the neighborhood, at serious risk. So here's some background. When I moved into this neighborhood, I honestly thought I found the perfect place. Quiet streets, good neighbors, and a homeowners association that, on paper, just made sure lawns were mowed and houses didn't fall apart. I never imagined it would turn into a battle over solar energy. I mean, it's 2025. Solar panels should be something people are excited about, right? But Karen? She saw them as a threat. Not just to neighborhood appearance, as she claimed, but to her sense of control. What most people don't know is that Karen isn't just another neighbor. She's been on the HOA board for years. She knows every bylaw, every loophole, and more importantly, she knows how to use them. At first, I thought maybe this was just a misunderstanding. Maybe if I explained things, showed her the paperwork, we could work it out. I even invited her to come take a look at the panels herself. She refused. Instead, she doubled down, sending letters, citing outdated rules, and even calling a surprise HOA meeting without notifying me. I started digging through the HOA documents myself and discovered something strange. A recent amendment, one that limits visible energy structures on rooftops, had been slipped in just a few months ago. No one I talked to even remembered voting on it. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about solar panels. There was something deeper going on. And just when I thought things couldn't get weirder, I came home one evening to find a notice taped to my front door. It wasn't from the HOA, it was from the city. And it mentioned a possible code violation that could force me to shut down my solar system entirely. The notice from the city was like a punch to the gut. The words were formal, technical, and it seemed like the whole thing had been set in motion without me even knowing. It said that a complaint had been filed about my solar panels. Someone had reported them as an unsightly and non-compliant structure. The irony. The only person I'd seen obsessing over the panels was Karen, but the city was taking it seriously. They wanted an inspection, and depending on the outcome, I could be forced to either remove the panels or face a hefty fine. My stomach sank. I wasn't just fighting Karen anymore, I was fighting the system. I needed answers. I reached out to my contractor, the one who had handled the installation, and asked if there was any chance we had missed something in the regulations. He reassured me that everything was done by the book, all the permits had been cleared, and the design had been approved, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. This whole situation felt planned. So I started asking around. Neighbors were nervous to get involved. Most of them had seen Karen's power firsthand. People didn't challenge her. I spoke to a few who'd lived here longer, and one of them, an older woman named Mrs. Jenkins, leaned in close when we talked. "It's not about the panels, honey," she whispered, looking over her shoulder as if Karen might be listening. "It's about control. Karen's been trying to change this neighborhood for years. She wants things her way, her vision of how everything should look. And right now, you're in her way. It hit me hard. Karen wasn't just making trouble out of some petty dislike for solar energy. She was using this as a power play, but I still didn't understand why. What could she possibly gain from making my life difficult over something as simple as solar panels? Then, the next night, something strange happened. I was sitting on my porch, scrolling through some old HOA meeting minutes, when I saw headlights pull up in front of my house. It was a city inspector. He had a clipboard in hand, and when he saw me, he just gave a nod and headed straight for my roof. He didn't even knock. No hello, no introduction. Just business. I walked over, trying to get a word in, but he didn't seem interested in talking. As he took measurements and checked the roof structure, I noticed something odd. A small sticker on his clipboard. It was faint, but I could make out a name, Karen's name. It was a personal note, written in red ink. Do whatever it takes to shut this down. I froze. That wasn't just a coincidence. Was she pulling strings behind the scenes to make sure I'd lose my panels? Was she that determined to take control of this neighborhood? Now more than ever, I needed to find a way to fight back. But how? And what if this was just the tip of the iceberg? I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. It wasn't just about solar panels anymore. It was about standing up for what was right. Karen had made it personal, and I was starting to realize just how far she would go to win. I couldn't just let her steamroll me. The fight was bigger than I had imagined, and I wasn't going to give in without a fight. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head: the mysterious city inspector, Karen's influence, the strange note on the clipboard. How deep did her control really go? I needed to find out more. Something didn't sit right, and I had a gut feeling that Karen wasn't working alone. The next morning, I decided to dig deeper into the HOA's finances and board decisions. I spent hours going through records online, trying to find any indication of financial ties, shady dealings, or anything that might explain Karen's sudden obsession with my solar panels. I was about to give up when I found it, an old contract buried in a pile of documents. It was dated just a year ago, and it outlined a huge renovation project that the HOA had approved for a neighbor down the street. The project was supposed to improve curb appeal, but the cost seemed exorbitant for the scope of work. And here's the kicker. The contractor on that project was the same one who had installed Karen's new, state-of-the-art air conditioning system. It clicked. Karen wasn't just trying to maintain control over the neighborhood's aesthetics. She was using the HOA to create opportunities for herself and her network. If she could control what people did with their property, she could steer business to her friends, making a fortune in the process. And I had no doubt that she was planning on doing the same thing with future projects, using her power to force others into compliance with her vision. I needed proof, something concrete that would bring this all to light. But I was running out of time. The HOA meeting was scheduled for the following week, and I had no idea what Karen would pull next. It was only a matter of time before she made her next move, and if I didn't act fast, I could lose everything. Then came the phone call. It was from a neighbor who'd seen something strange late the night before. Someone had been outside my house, snooping around. I felt my heart race as I asked more questions, but the details were vague. The person had been wearing a dark hoodie, and they'd been poking around my solar panels, taking pictures. Could it be Karen herself, or was she sending someone else to sabotage me? I didn't know how much longer I could hold on. The pressure was mounting, and with each passing day, Karen's grip on the situation seemed to tighten. But I knew one thing for sure: this fight was far from over. As the days dragged on, I felt like I was living in a pressure cooker, the heat only rising with each new development. The mysterious figure outside my house kept me up at night, wondering what Karen's next move would be. Was she behind it, or was someone else on her payroll? The thought of her having that much control over my life was maddening, but it also made me more determined than ever to get to the bottom of it. Then, on the day before the HOA meeting, something happened that I never expected. I was in my backyard, trying to keep my mind off things, when I got a text from an unknown number. It was a picture, a blurry, nighttime shot of my roof. The caption read, "Asterisk, you are not the only one with something to hide." Asterisk. My heart skipped a beat. Was this a warning? Or was someone trying to intimidate me into backing down? I wasn't sure, but I wasn't going to let this stop me. I called the number, but it went straight to voicemail. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That's when it hit me. What if Karen wasn't the only one behind this? What if there was someone else pulling strings from behind the scenes, someone more powerful than I realized? I had been so focused on her, but maybe I'd been overlooking a bigger picture. I decided to take a risk. I went straight to the HOA meeting early, hoping to get a sense of what was going on before the others arrived. I wasn't sure what I was expecting to find, but when I walked into the room, I froze. Sitting at the back of the meeting hall was someone I didn't recognize, a man, dressed in a sharp suit, his eyes cold and calculating. I had never seen him before, but something about him felt off. The way he was watching me, the way his gaze never left me, made my skin crawl. And just when I thought I couldn't feel any more uneasy, Karen walked in beside him, as if they were working together. They exchanged a look that sent a chill down my spine. It was as if they were waiting for something, waiting for me to make my move. It was clear now. Karen wasn't just trying to control the neighborhood for the sake of appearance or power. She had an ally, and together, they were playing a much bigger game than I had ever imagined. The stakes were higher than I could have ever anticipated, and now I realized just how much I had to lose. But what was their endgame? What did they want from me, and what would they do to make sure I lost this battle? I had no answers yet, but the room felt smaller by the second, the walls closing in. The tension was palpable, and I could almost feel the weight of their eyes on me, sizing me up. I was more determined than ever to stand my ground, but I knew I had to be careful. I couldn't trust anyone, not even the people I thought were on my side. As the meeting began, my heart was racing. I kept glancing at Karen and the mysterious man in the back, trying to figure out what they were planning. Every time their eyes met, it felt like they were silently communicating, plotting their next move. The rest of the HOA members filed in, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to go down. Karen stood up first, her usual confident smile now replaced by a look of smug satisfaction. She introduced the man beside her as Mr. Richards, a special consultant the HOA had hired to help with neighborhood improvements. The words felt hollow as they left her mouth, like she was trying to sell us a lie. But it wasn't just the words that made my stomach turn. It was the way Mr. Richards looked at me, his eyes cold, calculating. He knew what was at stake, and I could tell that this wasn't about solar panels anymore. It was about power, control over the neighborhood, over everyone in that room.